Jerry Mallory here for SB Nation and PrideDetroit.com. Of course, we're talking the NFL draft. Hop along with me inside the hypothetical machine. Now, I love doing hypotheticals, specifically those that are steeped in realism. I don't like the hypotheticals that just really don't have a chance of happening per se, although those can be fun sometime. So we're not talking about what if we can get Adrian Peterson for a 4th or 5th round pick, or what if we could trade Matthew Stafford for Peyton Manning and Wes Welker. No, we're talking about something that could actually happen. And this one, you are the GM of the Detroit Lions. You have a deal in place to move all the way up to number 2. The trade up happens. It's the St. Louis Rams. They've talked to you, and they've got a hankering that they can grab their favorite left tackle, or one of their favorite left tackles, at the number 10 spot. It's a guy that played left tackle at Michigan. He'll be tutored and mentored by another guy that played left tackle at Michigan. Yes, it is one Taylor Lewan. He'll learn under the tutelage of Jake Long, supplanting him as their left tackle. They believe he's a guy that will be very valuable, and he could be there at 10. So the trade goes down. You name the conditions. Maybe we gave them our 1st, 2nd this year, our 4th this year, and a 2nd next year. Maybe even our 1st this year and a 1st next year. You name it, but you're now at number 2. Lo and behold, the Houston Texans, they do what you're hoping as the Lions general manager, you're hoping they would do. The Texans draft a quarterback. Blake Bortles is off the board. So now you're sitting here in this draft that's supposedly star-studded with all the talent, and you can get your number 1 pick, the top guy that you covet the most as the GM of the Detroit Lions. Who's it going to be? There are 4 names, 3 names, and more than likely 2 names that you're thinking about. On a broad scale, you've got Greg Robinson there. You've got Khalil Mack. But we know this is going to come down probably to a 2-name race, a 2-horse race. Sammy Watkins versus Jadeveon Clowney. Video today is asking you, what are you doing with that number 2 pick? You may very well say, I want Khalil Mack. You can say Johnny Manziel for all I care, but we're going to talk a little bit further about Sammy Watkins versus Jadeveon Clowney. Guys, this could very well be a real possibility for the Lions. I, at the end of the day, think the Texans are going to draft Clowney and trading all the way up to 2. It could happen. I mean, the Dolphins moved all the way up to 3 last year. But, you know, it's not the most realistic thing, but it has more realism this year than any other year. We could be staring at a chance to draft Watkins or Clowney. So, for those in the Watkins camp, it's all there. There aren't any big flaws with Sammy Watkins. No character issues, no physical issues. You know, we can nitpick. You know, he caught a lot of balls on slants and took it, 30, 40 yards. Some may say this or that. But at the end of the day, he's lockstep, the best receiving prospect to come out the draft since A.J. Green. Some have said since Calvin Johnson. He adds another dynamic to your team. You add him with the weapons we already have. I mean, just imagine lining up. You've got Pettigrew, you've got Fourier, you've got Bush, and obviously you have Golden Tate, Calvin Johnson, and now Sammy Watkins. I mean, this is the guy at PrideDetroit.com on the message board, the fan post. Guys are going crazy. This is the name that's been talked about, and it seems as though the Detroit Lions have fallen madly in love with them. They're not ashamed of it. They're not sitting back and hiding their feelings for him. Some think it's a smoke screen, but maybe it's a double reverse smoke screen, and they want to see so into him that people think they're not into him, because at the end of the day, they really are into him. I think they love this guy, and everybody does. There's no reason not to. There aren't a lot of bad things you could say by bringing him in. I mean, he's someone that maybe in 4 to 5 years is now your number 1 receiver. At the very least, you have a deadly number 2 for years to come. A 2-man punch, a 3-man punch with Tate. You're sitting there at number 2. Your offense, you've got your Seattles, you've got your San Franciscos, you've got some good defense. If you want to get to the upper echelon, which the Lions are gunning for, instead of trying to build a defense like theirs, maybe you want to counteract with an explosive offense. Yeah, it didn't work for the Broncos. Does not mean that this team, this iteration of players, wouldn't try to do the same thing. So there's the cap for Sammy Watkins. But then there's Jadeveon Clowney. I mean, now, if this was a conversation we were having, let's say April 15th, 2013, there's no question. He's the number 1 pick almost no matter what team was going to behold that number 1 pick. all of the accolades, all of the stats. Huge bowl game versus Michigan with a one hit at least. I mean, this was the surefire lockstep, can't miss prospect, one of the biggest prospects, one of the most feared defensive players to come out of the draft. More buzz than we've seen since maybe a Mario Williams, but there was more buzz than that. Julius Peppers, but there was more buzz than even Julius Peppers. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney, he was looked at as the next man up to be a Hall of Famer on the defensive side of the ball, the second coming. Well, flash forward to this year, some say that some of the shine has fallen off. There's others that are saying he's just as good as we believed he was. To quote Denny Green, he is who we thought he was from 2013 to this year. The stats weren't quite there. There were a few injuries. I mean, whole offensive line scheming for him. He's still Jadeveon Clowney by many estimation. Then there are the issues, the things that come up now. There are some red flags that have started to creep in. Some are questioning his work ethic. Some are questioning, how physically in shape is he. He didn't do a ton of reps at the combine, which people say, hey, that's because of conditioning. He's not hitting the gym. So you question his character in some aspects. And then you see him do a broad jump where he jumps, 15, 20, 30 feet. Clear indication of his explosiveness. There's no question. He's a once-in-a-generational potential player. So who's it going to be? That's why I'm turning it over to you. Just briefly, if I'm doing the hypothetical myself, I'm sitting there at number 2. Blake Bortles is off the board, and I've got Johnny Manziel and Greg Robinson and Khalil Mack, who I'm not thinking about. But then there's the 2 that I'm looking at, and it's Jadeveon Clowney, and it's Sammy Watkins. I'd be elated with either one. And if we somehow trade up and get either one, color me happy. But if they're both there, give me Jadeveon Clowney. We can use more defense. We talk about our secondary, our safeties, our corners. You bring in a guy like that, the amount of pressure he's going to bring, you improve the whole defensive side of the ball, the secondary included. Just imagine Jadeveon Clowney getting one-on-one looks because Sue's going to get double teamed. So now you have a motivated Nick Fairley. You have the second coming Jadeveon Clowney. You have Ndamukong Suh, who's Sue. And you have Ansah. That's right, Ezekiel, the rookie who led all rookies in sacks last year. This could be the most feared defensive line in football. I love both prospects. But if I'm the GM in this hypothetical, give me Jadeveon Clowney. Who are you picking? Of course, you can go off the board. You can say Khalil Mack. You can say, hey, I just love Greg Robinson. You can say whoever you want, except for Blake Bortles. But if you were to say him anyway, I question how much you knew about the Detroit Lions, their needs in football in general. That's going to do it, guys. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. As always, we'll be back very soon. If it's not the next video, it's a video after. I want to tackle, no pun intended, the defensive tackle position for the Lions this year on forward. There's a lot of moving parts that could take place. We've got Sue. We've got fairly rumors of Aaron Donald being drafted at number 10. I'm going to talk about that. So look forward to that in a couple of days. I want to thank all of you for watching once again. Subscribe. Leave your comments. Who are you drafting? Your top guy on the board. Not regardless of where you're picking. Just the number 1 guy you want for the Lions. Imagine yourself with that number 2 pick. Number 10 is out the door. We talked about who we draft at 10. Now we're going for the gold, so to speak. So leave your comments. Subscribe. We'll be back soon. Thanks for watching. As always, this is Jerry Mallory for SB Nation and PrideDetroit.com.